A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. I'm glad that you've joined us on the program today. It is so good to have some good news to talk about for once. We are a week away from the election. Hopefully, if you have not already voted, you have made your plans to vote. You are talking with your fellow gun owners about the importance of getting out and voting. But Monday night, another key moment in the Trump presidency with the confirmation vote and then the swearing in of the newest Associate Justice to the Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett. And the reaction from Second Amendment groups is already coming in. The National Shooting Sports Foundation praising the swearing in of Justice Barrett. According to Larry Keane, NSSF Senior Vice President and General Counsel, quote, the National Shooting Sports Foundation is extremely pleased with the confirmation of Justice Barrett, and we are confident that her service to the nation and the Supreme Court will have tremendous and lasting impact for decades and generations. Justice Barrett's service will reaffirm the importance of originalist jurists when protecting the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding Americans. The firearm industry is grateful for the resolute foresight of President Donald Trump to nominate such a qualified jurist to serve on the bench. The National Rifle Association also applauding the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett. Jason Ouimet, Executive Director of NRA's Institute for Legislative Action, saying, quote, on behalf of our millions of members, we offer congratulations to all who participated in the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett as a Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. She promises to serve our nation with distinction and honor. The Firearms Policy Coalition also congratulating Justice Barrett for her confirmation and thanking President Donald Trump for the nomination. Brandon Combs, the president of the Firearms Policy Coalition, says, quote, FPC's legal team, the largest and most impactful of its kind in the nation, is already hard at work on some of the most important Second Amendment lawsuits in the country and is actively preparing dozens more. As Justice Thomas has explained, the Second Amendment is not a second-class right. We are eager to see the Supreme Court grant certiorari in an appropriate case, reaffirm that the Constitution's text means exactly what it says, and once more clarify that recalcitrant lower courts cannot continue to apply the interest-balancing tiered scrutiny that the court expressly rejected in the Heller case. So, what does this mean for our Second Amendment rights? Well, that's the very first question that I posed to our guest today, Executive Director and founder of the, Executive Vice President and founder of the Second Amendment Foundation, Mr. Alan Gottlieb, who joins us on the program to talk about the confirmation of Justice Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court, and yes, the impact that it will almost certainly have on our right to keep and bear arms. Take a look and a listen. Alan Gottlieb, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program. I appreciate your time today.
It's always my pleasure, Cam.
And, you know, it's actually nice to have some good news to talk about for once. And not just good news, but great news with the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court, the newest Associate Justice. Let me ask you first off the bat, Alan, I mean, what does this mean for our Second Amendment rights before the High Court?
Well, I think it means an awful lot, Cam. The Second Amendment Foundation and other groups have lots of court cases percolating back up to the Supreme Court right now. Cases that deal with right to carry, so-called assault weapon bans, young adults being banned from firearms ownership or being able to carry, restoration of rights, and a lot of other cases as well. So it's really important that the Supreme Court get to hear some of these cases, to be able to, expand and reaffirm Second Amendment rights. And of course, having Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court, surely means we have enough votes, I think, now to be able to hear cases and get some good affirmative rulings protecting Second Amendment rights. I guess in one line I could say, her getting confirmed to the Supreme Court will help make the Second Amendment great again.
You know what? That's a really good way of putting it. And I hope that you are correct. As you say, I mean, it takes 4 justices to agree to hear a case. We know that on paper we've had 4 justices, but what we're hearing, the whispers from the court, is that there's been a lot of concern about where Chief Justice John Roberts would come down if a Second Amendment case were heard at the Supreme Court. Now you've got in theory anyway. I won't say a guaranteed vote in favor of the Second Amendment, but as you and I have talked before, with Justice Barrett at the Supreme Court, you have a justice who we know takes the Second Amendment seriously. She sees it as the fundamental right that it is. She sees it as the individual right that it is, and she will take that approach to cases that come before her. And I'm with you. I would like to think that this will give us the votes necessary to see the court start hearing some of these cases. But of course, there is that concern, Alan, as you well know, that if Joe Biden gets elected, Democrats are going to try to undo this appointment, and they're going to try to pack the court by adding 4 more justices, all of whom would be anti-gun, to the Supreme Court. So you'd have 13 Supreme Court justices and an anti-gun majority.
Yeah, there's no doubt that what you just said is true, and Judge Barrett is the firewall temporarily, at least for us. There is no doubt that if Biden gets elected president and the Senate goes the other way and flips, we're in big trouble, and a lot of our years' worth of work could go down the drain very, very quickly. That's why this upcoming election is so important, and it's so important, in fact, that I'm sitting here in the battleground state in Arizona, trying to help turn out gun vote.
In fact, I know that President Trump, he's going to be visiting Arizona. He's going to be trying to turn out the gun vote this week. You're going to get a chance to at least see the president during his stop?
Yes, he's got a rally here in Goodyear, Arizona. I'm going to be added. I'm been added to the list as a VIP to be able to get in with reserved seating in the presidential section. And I'm very, very excited about it.
That is fantastic. I'm glad to know that you'll be there representing gun owners when the president makes his campaign stop in Arizona. And as you say, I mean, this is one of many battleground states. President Trump was in Pennsylvania yesterday, 3 stops all across the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. You and I have talked before about some of the delays that we're seeing right now in Pennsylvania in terms of folks who are applying for their concealed carry license. They're having to wait more than a year. In Philadelphia, 9 months in Allegheny County. We've seen what Governor Tom Wolf has tried to do, originally keeping gun stores closed in the first pandemic orders. And ultimately, it was the Trump administration's guidance that gun stores were, essential businesses that sort of forced Governor Wolf's hand in opening up those gun stores once again. So, no matter where you live right now, if you're a gun owner and a Second Amendment supporter, you hopefully are aware of the stakes of this election, and you are not going to be sitting this one out because it is so vitally important. Now, getting back to the Supreme Court for a second, if I can, Alan, you talked about some of the issues that the court's going to have a chance to address in the coming months if they take some of these cases, everything from right to carry, as you say, those 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are being denied their Second Amendment rights. Have you been able to take a look at some of the cases that the Second Amendment Foundation is supporting and is involved in to see what cases might be the first to get to the Supreme Court with Justice Barrett on the bench?
Cam, it's really hard for me to say what the first ones are going to be because just when you think a case is moving along, something comes along to delay it.
Yeah.
And some of our cases have been around for, right now for 5-6 years, and we're not there yet. So it's really very difficult for me to say. But there's no doubt there's a lot of things that are moving. I have a feeling that probably the inside track will be something coming out of the Ninth Circuit. Which case it will be is going to be hard to say, but there's magazine ban cases out of the Ninth Circuit, out of California. The assault weapon bans out of the Ninth Circuit and other states as well. The young Americans, young adults not being able to exercise their Second Amendment rights out of a number of states. So it's hard to say which is going to be the first one coming out, but there's no doubt that something's going to be moving up fairly rapidly.
Absolutely. Again, talking with our friend Alan Godley from the Second Amendment Foundation out in Arizona, the battleground state of Arizona. And I got to ask, Alan, before we let you go, I mean, what is your impression being on the ground there in Arizona in terms of the enthusiasm of gun owners to get out and vote this election?
Well, let me say it's kind of interesting. I really live in our offices are based in Washington State. And in Washington State, of course, all you see is, Biden lawn signs. Mm-hmm. You don't see anything for Trump. And here in Arizona, forget about just lawn signs. You see giant signs. And in fact, one of my, down the street from me here, there's a house that has, in LED lighting, like a billboard Trump 2020. And wherever you go, you see cars with Trump flags on them, houses with flying flags that say Trump on them. And you just walk around neighborhoods, and it's amazing. You can tell not only is the battleground safe, but people are engaged, and gun owners in Arizona are very engaged.
Well, that is good news. I'm seeing much the same thing, not the LED lights in rural Virginia, but I'm seeing a lot of farmers for Trump, as you say, not just signs, but billboards, farm equipment, parked out in a pasture with a big Trump Farmers for Trump sign emblazoned on the side of it. We are definitely seeing, and I think we've got a lot of engaged gun owners in the state of Virginia, thanks to Governor Ralph Northam and his push for gun control earlier this year. I think we've got a strong Second Amendment turnout that, not only could mean trouble for Joe Biden, but I think could help pro-Second Amendment candidates who are running for Congress in the state of Virginia. And that's the other important thing. You and I have been talking a lot about the presidential election, but, if Democrats take control of the U.S. Senate, if they keep control of the House, that is going to pose, again, real clear dangers to our right to keep and bear arms. We've already seen some of the legislation that Nancy Pelosi has advanced out of the House, knowing that it was going to die in the Senate. But, are you concerned, Alan, that if Democrats have a good night next Tuesday, that gun control is going to be one of their top priorities? Because I don't see them sitting on this issue like they did when Barack Obama was elected. He decided to go for Obamacare instead of gun control, spent a lot of political capital. I don't think Biden's going to make that same mistake.
No, they're definitely going to go for gun owners' throats, in my opinion, because they really blame gun owners for Trump's election. It was gun owners in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, that basically put him in the White House in 2016, and they want to get even. But there's another thing flying below the radar that really disturbs me, Cam, and that's what they call redistricting. This election is going to determine who controls a lot of state legislatures around the country, and then they redistrict, and that determines, where the congressional lines are drawn and the lines drawn from, local state houses, and then all of a sudden there's a giant flip again in 2 years later. So I'm very, very concerned about this particular election all the way down ballot.
Yeah. And, the redistricting issue, you're right to bring that up. I mean, that is a genuine concern. Here in Virginia, we've actually got a constitutional amendment on our ballot because when Republicans were in control of the legislature, Democrats complained that the redistricting process was unfair. So they wanted to come up with some, nonpartisan way to redistrict seats. They got it on the ballot. And then last year, Democrats took control of the state legislature. And all of a sudden, Alan, they're not in favor of their own redistricting plan because it's nonpartisan. Now that they're in charge, they want to stay in charge. And you're right. They want to be the ones to draw those district boundaries. So you've actually got Democrats in Virginia who are arguing against a measure that they were responsible for putting before voters, which tells you everything you need to know about the importance of the redistricting issue. Listen, thank you again, my friend, for coming on the program. It is always so good to talk to you. I am so glad to hear that you're out in the thick of things. We have 1 week left. And if we don't talk to you before then, I know that you and I will be talking shortly after Election Day, because we definitely want to get your thoughts and your perspective as far as what we have to worry about and hopefully what we can look forward to in the aftermath of this election.
Well, thank you, Cam. I love talking with you and your listeners, so I really appreciate the opportunity.
I'll give our best to the thousands of folks there in Goodyear, Arizona for President Trump's rally tomorrow, and look forward to talking again very soon. Alan Gottlieb from the Second Amendment Foundation joining us here on Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. Now, again, the big test is going to be a week from now. What happens in the election? And if Joe Biden wins, if Democrats take control of the Senate, will they try to nuke the legislative filibuster and then turn around and pack the Supreme Court? I would anticipate that this will be one of the first issues that Democrats are going to wrestle with if, in fact, they are able to take back the White House and the Senate on Election Day or in the weeks afterwards as the votes are tabulated. It's not a done deal. I mean, there is going to be some pressure on the part of some Democrats to say, no, don't do this. This is a mistake. You look at the polling on the issue. First of all, by the way, according to the polling, and you can take the polls with however many grains of salt you want, but according to the polling, a majority of Americans supported the confirmation of Justice Amy Coney Barrett, and about 60% of Americans disagree with the idea of packing the court by Democrats because they're angry that they did not get their way and they did not get to fill the seat left by the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So I think politically it would be a big mistake for Democrats to take that risk and to try to pack the court. But honestly, if they do, actually, if they're in a position to do it and that's what they decide to do, I don't think they're worried about the electoral consequences 2 years from now in the midterm elections. I think that they believe that they would put in place a court that would indemnify them from really any electoral losses going forward, that this would be a shot across the bow in terms of free and fair elections in this country going forward. So we're going to be watching very closely what happens not only on Election Day, but in the days afterwards. But there is an enormous amount of pressure being applied by Democrats like Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and others who are demanding that the court be expanded from 9 justices to 13 justices. Of course, my comment was that in a true democracy, even though we live in a republic, but in a true democracy, every one of us would be a Supreme Court justice. That's the only way, right? To have justice for all is if all of us are justices. All right, let's get to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, our recidivist report. We will start there with a story out of Cleveland, Ohio, where a man's been charged in a murder that happened at a Cleveland gas station. The Cleveland Plain Dealer reporting on this story. And unfortunately, this suspect, Ennis Lee Jr., is well known to local police. He's charged with aggravated murder. He's not in police custody. A warrant's been issued for his arrest. He's been charged in the murder of Karen Hunter, a 48-year-old woman who was shot and killed back on September the 1st at a Sunoco gas station. Hunter was with a man at a gas station when the man began arguing with somebody in the parking lot. The other man then punched a different woman in the face, according to court records. Ennis Lee is accused of watching the attack and then walking from across the street with another man, firing shots at the assailant, hitting him in the arm and the leg. The man who walked across the street with Lee has not been identified. Hunter's friend then fired several shots back, according to police. Hunter was standing near the group, was shot in the face. She died at the scene. According to the Cleveland Plain Dealer, at the time of the shooting, Ennis Lee was free after posting 10% of a $50,000 bond stemming from an aggravated robbery charge. In that case, he and another man accused of robbing a Sunoco gas station at gunpoint. Lee was also convicted in 2016 of drug trafficking, violated the terms of his probation on multiple occasions. He was ultimately sentenced to a year in prison. And again, after that prison sentence, he was back out when he was arrested and charged with aggravated robbery. 10% of a $50,000 bond means that he only had to post $5,000 and he was able to walk away. Now Ennis Lee, again, accused of aggravated murder, not in custody. Hopefully police are able to make an arrest at some point, but a lot of questions, I would think now, about why Ennis Lee was released on just $5,000 bond from that aggravated robbery charge. Now, our armed citizen story of the day, a little bit different than what we normally talk about. Normally, we talk about individuals who defend themselves with the help of a firearm, but case out of Spokane, Washington, involved a homeowner defending himself against an intruder with the help of the knife in his pocket. Yeah, Travis McKee, the homeowner who was attacked by a burglar, punched in his face. You can see a screenshot there. He's reenacting the beating that he received at the hands of this stranger, 36-year-old Randall Davis, who had knocked on Lee's door and then asked for a cigarette. Seconds later, this guy is now in Travis McKee's apartment and is beating McKee. McKee said he got on top of me, just pounded me for 10 minutes. So the side of my face, he had me in some kind of holder. My chin was pressed against my neck. I couldn't get any air. According to the Spokane Police Department, Randall Davis is a convicted felon with a history of assault. As McKee is being choked to the point of unconsciousness, his dog Mutt comes running over and bites McKee in the leg. Doesn't bite the guy attacking Travis McKee. No, his dog bit him. McKee says, when my dog came up and bit my leg, it woke me up. Said, I remember that I had my knife in my pocket. I got my knees under me. I started to try to worm my way out of what he had. It was just a last-ditch effort. I was going to die. And Davis still had McKee pinned to the floor, but McKee managed to slash at his attacker's arm, stomach, and neck until he let go. And then McKee said, I held a knife up to him. I told him, I'll cut your throat. I'll cut your head off, dude, if you even move, period. I'm going to tourniquet you, and you'd better not move. And McKee said Davis allowed him to do it. He put a tourniquet on him, came back, found his phone, called 911, saving his attacker's life. Officers arrived. They rendered first aid until medics arrived and took over. McKee and Randall both taken to local hospitals where they were treated for their injuries. Once Randall is released from the hospital, he is going to be booked into jail on first-degree burglary charges as well as second-degree assault charges. Travis McKee defended himself from that unknown intruder in his home, not facing any charges. Mutt, the dog, who, Travis McKee credits with sort of waking him up out of his stupor, hopefully going to get some treats and maybe a little training so that next time, if there is a next time, hopefully there's not, but if there is a next time, maybe Mutt goes for the attacker instead of his owner. There you go. And finally today, our good deed of the day. I mean, Mutt's deed was a pretty good deed, but our good deed of the day in human form from Tennessee, scary moments on an interstate. UT Police Corporal Kyle Bodica works there on the campus of University of Tennessee at Knoxville. Said he was running errands on his day off when he saw smoke ahead of him on Interstate 40. And as he got to the scene, he saw that sight, a camper in flames, no first responders close by. He said, at that point, I thought I got to stop because this is new. There's nobody here. Nobody's responded yet. And that's exactly what the officer did. Officer Kyle Bodica said, you get kind of wired to see a problem and you try to help when you do, at least for me personally. He said, I'd also rather do something than go by and regret not doing something. So he pulled over, said some bystanders were right at the scene trying to get the driver and the truck away from a burning camper. He said, I helped move some stuff away from the fire. But then as he's doing this, one of the people who were kind of standing by collapsed right in front of him. Bodica said, myself and some of the other people who were there, we picked him up, moved him further away from the fire, probably like 30 feet or so from the trailer when he fell. Officials said the man had a heart attack. So Kyle Bodica said he and a nurse, who was also a bystander, start performing CPR. He said, I don't know who she was. I don't know her name or anything, but she was at his head. She counted for me. She had a little portable mask with her, actually gave breaths. The pair performed CPR on the man until medics arrived at the scene, transported him to the hospital. At last report, looks like the guy is going to be okay. That's pretty amazing. And he said that he wanted to thank the nurse, Kyle Bodica did. He said, nursing is another career that you choose to help people, and you put yourself under a lot of stress to do that. And I really appreciate her work and her help. It made things a lot smoother, and it very likely helped that man survive. Speaking of that man, Kyle Bodica also had some kind words to say to him, too. He said he was there to help people he didn't know, and he obviously put himself in legitimate harm's way to do so. It's always encouraging to see people who don't have the training that I have and don't have that built-up response where they just kind of automatically go. To see them doing that, too, is just really encouraging. So in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing for a couple of strangers. Kyle Bodica, University of Tennessee Police Corporal, we thank you, sir, for your very, very good deed. And that is all the time we've got for you on this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. I want to thank you for being a part of the program today. Don't forget, you can subscribe to Town Hall Media. That way you'll never miss a program. You can also subscribe to Bearing Arms Cam & Company on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and you can get the show that way as well. Tomorrow, 1:30 Eastern Time, we've got another VIP Gold chat coming up for our Town Hall Media VIP Gold members. Ed Morrissey and myself will be kicking around some of the day's top stories and giving our final election predictions. You can be a part of that if you are a VIP Gold member, and you can sign up at bearingarms.com. In fact, if you use the promo code LOYALTY, all caps, 25% off your VIP Gold membership, and we certainly do appreciate your support. Until we talk again, be well, be safe, be free, and we'll see you soon with another edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company.